Zarathos is the galaxy's deadliest secret. This world isn't just hostile, it's forbidden, a planet no being, alien or human, has ever dared conquer. Even reaching it is a nightmare, hidden deep within a treacherous pocket of space. Yet, a compelling signal has pulsed from its depths for over a century, a cryptic transmission that defied all understanding. Finally, the code cracked and humanity rallied. Their audacious goal is to descend upon Zarathos, penetrate its deadly cave systems, and recover the alien technology within. Whatever the cost. Aboard a flagship orbiting Zarathos. The briefing room was a riot of whispers and nervous shuffling. Rex Dresda felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. Today, he would walk upon Zarathos, the deadliest world humanity had ever encountered. "All right, people, listen up!" Captain Yarrow's gruff voice cut through the din. Every eye in the packed room swung to the front. "We all know the score by now. Zarathos is a Grade 7 hellhole, the nastiest we've seen. The atmospheric readings alone would melt the skin right off your bones, and that's before we even get to the wildlife." A grim silence descended. "But we're humanity," Yarrow continued, her voice taking on the edge of defiance. "We don't get scared. We get clever. We adapt. It's taken us 26 years to develop the experimental tech that'll give us a fighting chance on this rock. Everyone in this room is the best of the best. And Dresda..." She turned and gave Rex a curt nod. "You'll be the point man, the first human to ever step foot on Zarathos. Don't screw it up." Rex grinned, a mix of excitement and terror twisting his gut. "Wouldn't dream of it, ma'am." The hours that followed were a whirlwind of tech checks and safety drills. Finally, Rex stood before the airlock, his heart a frantic drumbeat beneath his environment suit. He glanced back at his team, their resolute faces gleaming under the harsh ship lighting. They'd put their lives in his hands, trusting him to return them from this alien inferno. He wouldn't let them down. The airlock hissed open. A gust of superheated air billowed in, tinged with sulfur's sharp, acrid scent. Rex took a deep, steadying breath. "For Earth," he muttered, and then he stepped through. His boots crunched on the obsidian-like ground, each step a measured risk. The environment suit did its job, shielding him from the blistering heat and the corrosive atmosphere. Still, the planet's evil presence pressed against him anyway. It whispered in the hot wind and glared down from the sickly yellow sun. The heads-up display in his helmet relayed a relentless stream of information. Toxic air composition, temperature spiking with each step, and dangerously high radiation levels. And that was just the surface. Zarathos was riddled with a labyrinth of volcanic fissures and unstable magma flows, any of which could turn his mission into an instant grave. "Dresda, status?" Yarrow's clipped voice cut through the comms. "Copy, Captain. This place is indescribable," he replied, searching for the words. "But I'm holding. The movement's restricted, but the suit tech is doing its job." His first job was to scout a suitable location for landing a research vessel, a site far enough from any immediate threats to give them a foothold in this hostile world. His second job was to track the location of what they came for. This was a grab-and-dash mission, and he had to be quick about it. Images and data streamed back to the ship with each meter he covered, analyzed for signs of imminent danger. An unnatural sound shattered the planet's desolate silence, a low, keening wail that set his teeth on edge. His gaze darted across the barren landscape. Through the atmospheric distortion, a flicker of movement caught his eye. An impossibly large creature slithered over a ridge of volcanic rock. Scaly hide glinted dully in the jaundiced sunlight, and a grotesque, multi-eyed head surveyed the terrain with unnerving intelligence. "Dresda, report!" Yarrow's voice was sharper this time, laced with concern. "Captain, we've got a local inhabitant," Rex managed, struggling to keep his voice even. "Reading massive, reptilian, and definitely not friendly. Understood. Exercise extreme caution. Don't take unnecessary risks, she warned. Rex swallowed hard. Of course she'd say that, but his choices were limited out here, alone on the surface of an uncharted death trap. Backing down wasn't an option. He wasn't built that way, nor were any men and women waiting in orbit. He'd just have to be smarter, faster, and damn lucky to survive this. The creature continued its lumbering progress, seemingly oblivious to Rex's presence. It was far too large and formidable for any direct confrontation. His instincts screamed at him to run, but he remained frozen, his hand hovering over the pulse laser strapped to his thigh. It was a desperate contingency, a last resort against anything this planet could throw at him. Taking a steadying breath, Rex began to slowly backtrack, his eyes glued to the beast. The terrain beneath his feet was treacherous, brittle, fragmented rock littered with deceptive holes that could lead to a fatal misstep. But his attention was riveted to the creature. It was closing in, perhaps alerted by the rhythmic thud of his suit's environmental stabilizers. He tripped, stumbling backward over a jagged outcrop. Pain shot through his leg, and he swore under his breath. The noise must have reached the alien behemoth. It paused, the monstrous head swiveling in his direction. One of its eyes, a luminous, milky orb, locked onto his position. It let out a piercing roar that shook the ground around him, and the sulphurous stench of its breath nearly knocked him over. Time seemed to slow. Instinct took over, overpowering rational thought. This was it. The moment Earth's first foray onto Zarathos would end in failure, and he'd be the sacrifice. Rex scrambled to his feet, fumbling for the pulse laser. He leveled it at the creature, braced himself, and squeezed the trigger. A blinding burst of energy shot toward the beast, striking it just below its primary eye. The creature shrieked, rearing back in pain. Rex didn't stop to see the damage he'd inflicted. He took off running, the terrain a blur beneath his frantic feet. "Dresda!" Yarrow's voice was an urgent crackle in his ear. "What in God's name was that? Report!" "Massive hostile, engaged, but I'm pulling back!" He risked a glance over his shoulder. Thankfully, the creature was focused on its wounded eye, thrashing in agony. "This area's a death trap," Rex grunted. "There's no chance for a landing site. I'm making a run straight for the target." "Copy that," Yarrow replied, her voice tight. This wasn't the plan. The state-of-the-art suit they'd risked everything to build, the single hope for setting foot on this cursed planet, was already a gamble. Now, with dwindling time and dwindling options, Rex was going rogue. She knew they all tried to ignore the truth. That experimental suit was a one-way ticket to Zarathos. The others, the prototypes, were flimsy backups, suitable for a rescue, maybe, but not for surviving this planet for long. They might have one shot to get down there, to bring Rex back, if he lasted long enough. Rex continued running in the direction of the signal displayed on his HUD. His lungs burned and his legs screamed for respite, but Rex pushed himself harder. The comms channel crackled with worried voices from the ship. Still, he blocked them out, focusing on the single-minded objective of reaching what they came for. The terrain grew less treacherous, the twisted volcanic rock formations giving way to a smoother plain of solidified magma. He allowed himself a flicker of hope. Perhaps the worst was behind him. A booming tremor shook the ground, throwing him off balance. He looked back. The creature was gaining on him, its rage outweighing its injury. Fear gave him a final burst of speed. Just a little further. Suddenly, the ground beneath him simply vanished. Rex let out a startled yell as he plunged into darkness. His momentum carried him down a steep, rough slope, brutally jarring his already aching body. The environment suit did its best to cushion him, but he tumbled uncontrollably into the blackness. When he finally crunched to a stop, utter blackness surrounded him. A groan escaped his lips. He was alive, at least for now, but clearly injured and stuck somewhere deep within the hellish heart of Zarathos. "Dresda! Dresda! Come in!" Yarrow's voice echoed in his ears, filled with a tense mix of worry and frustration. Swallowing against the growing tightness in his throat, Rex fumbled for the suit's communications unit. "Captain, I've hit a snag," he croaked. "I took a tumble down some kind of hole. The suit's compromised and the readings aren't good." A long, heavy silence stretched over the channel. "Rex," Yarrow's voice was strained. "How bad is it? Can you get out? Can we get you out?" He activated the suit lights, their beams cutting through the thick gloom. He was in a cave, a natural tunnel formed by ancient lava flows. He could see the opening far above him, a tiny, impossibly distant circle of light. "Negative, ma'am. The readings say I'm losing O2. It looks like I'm on borrowed time." The realization hit Rex with a numbing finality. This was it. He'd come farther than any human had before, faced down this planet's terrors, and in the end, it would claim him, leaving him just another name on a casualty list. Despair threatened to overwhelm him. But a defiant spark, the stubborn flame that burned within all explorers, refused to be extinguished so quickly. He couldn't just wait to die. With grim determination, he forced himself upright, ignoring the spikes of pain from his injuries. The cave stretched away into the gloom. Even with limited oxygen, there was time to explore, to make his final moments count for something. A faint, phosphorescent glow drew his attention further into the depths. Rex followed it, his footsteps echoing ominously in the silence. As the light grew stronger, an impossible sight materialized, a cluster of bioluminescent flora clinging to the cave walls. They shimmered with soft, ethereal light, an unexpected touch of beauty amid desolation. But something else caught his eye. Half buried in a mound of volcanic debris was an object, a metallic glint, a smooth, artificial curve. He scrambled towards it, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and delirious hope. He knelt, fingers scrabbling through the dirt and loose rock. It was a device of some kind, a battered, elongated sphere, clearly not native to Zarathos. Alien technology, abandoned or discarded, but proof he wasn't the first intelligent being to set foot on this accursed world. A sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. His vision flickered, the bioluminescent glow blurring. Oxygen. He was losing the fight. Desperately, he thumbed his comm unit one last time. "Captain," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Not alone. Found something. Alien. Tech. Dresda. Rex, hold on!" Yarrow's voice was thick with urgency, but it was fading, receding into the encroaching darkness. Rex reached out, touching the smooth surface of the alien artifact. A sense of peace settled over him. He'd failed in his primary mission, true, but he'd made a discovery that could change everything. Humanity wouldn't conquer Zarathos today, but his sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. They'd return with the knowledge his life had bought. His breath hitched, and there was only darkness. Aboard the orbiting ship, chaos reigned. The loss of Dresda's signal had been a gut punch to them all. Yarrow, steely and resolute as always, wrestled with a terrible decision. Send a rescue team down into those deadly depths or cut their losses and retreat. The discovery of alien tech changed everything. Dresda's last transmission crackled with a mix of fading hope and desperate discovery. There was more down there than just death. There was a mystery to be solved, a trail left behind by some other star-faring civilization. Yarrow made her choice. A small elite team geared up with only a few prototype suits capable of lasting a brief time on Zarathos, and descended. The clock was ticking, not just because Zarathos was a death trap, but also because the window for recovering Dresda, alive or dead, was rapidly narrowing. The rescue team navigated the same harsh terrain, encountering their own share of the planet's monstrous inhabitants. Yet, driven by a fierce determination to honor their fallen comrade, they pressed on. The readings from Dresda's mangled suit led them through the volcanic labyrinth and, finally, to the cave. The sight that greeted them was both heartbreaking and astonishing. Rex Dresda lay sprawled near the mound of rubble, his suit a crumpled wreck. Beside him, the alien device pulsed with faint light. But even more miraculous was the sight of the bioluminescent flora. It had spread, twining around the fallen explorer, its light stronger, somehow protective. Miraculously, a faint heartbeat still flickered on their scanners. Dresda was alive, barely, kept in some kind of stasis by the alien flora. It was a desperate gamble, but the team carefully extracted him and the alien artifact. Back on the ship, doctors worked tirelessly to revive Rex, their efforts aided by a close study of the alien plants. Days turned into weeks, and hope dwindled with each passing hour. And then, a miracle. Rex Dresda's eyes flickered open. His recovery was slow and his body was ravaged by Zarathos, but his spirit was unbroken. His harrowing ordeal, the alien technology, and the miraculous flora brought about a seismic shift in the project. Zarathos wasn't just a world to be conquered. It was a puzzle to be solved, a deadly treasure chest that held the potential to transform humanity's destiny amongst the stars.